Last week, I think we got through chapter 14 of 1 Chronicles, where David finally got it right and started asking the Lord how he should handle the situations, and especially with the Philistine armies that were coming against him. He asked, "Am I going to win this?" God said, "Yep, if you do it this way, you're going to win." And then they came against him again, twice, and he said, "So what do I do?" Most of the time, we would probably say, "Hey, he helped us the first time, why ask the second time?" But it's probably a good thing that he did, because he wanted him to do things differently. Don't just go out there right head on. He said, "I want you to do it differently. And if you do it this way, you will win." David did it the way God wanted him to. Verse 16 of chapter 14 in Chronicles, "So David did as God commanded him, and they struck down the Philistine army all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. So David's fame spread throughout every land, and the Lord made all the nations fear him." So he's finally getting it right as far as, okay, I need to ask God on these things. Starting in chapter 15, after David had constructed buildings for himself in the city of David, he prepared a place for the ark of God and pitched a tent for it. Then David said, "No one but the Levites may carry the ark of God, because the Lord chose them to carry the ark of the Lord and to minister before him forever." Where did he get that? Just out of the blue? He knew, didn't he? He knew before, but he wanted to do it his way, the people's way. This is what the people wanted, right? He was kind of swayed, wasn't he? Now he's figuring out, hey, if I ask God, I'm going to get some things right. If I remember what God told us from the past, I think I might get this thing right. So he's realizing, hey, the Levites were the ones that were supposed to be in charge of transporting this, in ministering. So verse 3, David assembled all Israel in Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the Lord to the place that he had prepared for it. He called together the descendants of Aaron and the Levites. And then it goes through from the descendants of Korath, and all of them 120 relatives, descendants of Merari, 220 relatives, Gershon, Joel the leader, and 130 relatives, on down through there. Verse 11, then David summoned Zodok and Abiathar, the priests, and Uriah and Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Aminadab, the Levites. He said to them, "You are the heads of the Levitical families, and you and your fellow Levites are to consecrate yourselves and bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel, to the place I have prepared for it. It was because you, the Levites, did not bring up the first time, and the Lord our God broke out in anger against us. We did not inquire of him about how to do it in the prescribed way." Now, at first there, you would think that he was blaming the Levites because they did not do this like they should have known. Well, they were actually probably should have known, shouldn't they? But everybody was excited, and they said, "Let's bring it up." And they were following David's lead. The Levites should have known, but there again, David should have known, shouldn't he have? David should have known firsthand, okay, we're going to get this ark up here. Now remember, it's been 20 years since they've even had him in the presence, the ark representing God. And then all of a sudden it's like, we got to have it up here now. Let's get it moving. Dan, did you have something?
Well, you see it here. It's kind of ironic that David was so popular that everyone just went along with what he wanted. You see that today with these
Exactly.
televangelists that people
Yep.
just follow him thinking, well, if he says it's right, it's okay.
Exactly.
Well, that's not the case.
I mean, why not go with the crowd? I mean, there's a big group following them. Well, they must be right? I mean, if you've got a lot of people following, you must be right.
Deuteronomy 10 verse 8 explained who was to deal with the ark. It was the Levites.
Exactly.
They were to carry it, and they were to maintain it.
And that was pretty plain. And this is back in Deuteronomy when it was established. This is what I want you to do. These are the people that I want you to take care of it. And it was plain. But yet, how easy is it to get caught up in the moment? That's what happened here. They were going to bring it the first time. They were going to be caught up in the moment. Let's do it. Let's put it on it'd be so much easier than somebody carrying it. Let's just put it on a cart. And you can see how, as he said once again, the Lord our God broke out in anger. I mean, we're not talking about tap on the, yep. We're talking about a major deal. Uzzah lost his life for that. Tony.
Oh, I was just going to say, maybe there was a little bit of fear, too, not to follow. Because if I'm in a crowd of people and they're all going one direction and I go the other way, it's going to not look good for me,
Well,
who knows? I mean, it's hard to say. Fear does lead us into bad.
it does, but as Dan said, the excitement the first time around was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If we look back, I mean, they got the band going. It's exciting until that oxen stumbled. Now we're gonna see another excitement because they're doing it the right way. He has called the Levites together and says, this is the way it's going to be. Joe.
Well, God's word is never changed.
Never.
I mean, we know what he says is true and that we can count on that.
Right.
And so it's, he's the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow. It's stable.
And when he establishes this is the way it's going to be, do we have the right to change it because we don't think it's right? Because the crowd's not going that way and we kind of like to follow the crowd. Do we change? We shouldn't.
No.
Unfortunately, they did for a moment.
David should have looked at the book of
He knew what the... Yep. So in 14, so the priests and the Levites consecrated themselves in order to bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel. And the Levites carried the ark of God with poles on their shoulder, as Moses had commanded, in accordance with the word of the Lord. David told the leaders of the Levites to appoint their brothers as singers to sing joyful songs, accompanied by musical instruments, lyres, harps, and cymbals. So the Levites appointed Hema, son of Joel, from his brothers, Asaph, son of, and all down through there. And I tell you, I could be the rest of the class trying to pronounce all these. But he's assigning all this. There's musicians, there's singers. They're playing lyres, they're playing harps, they're blowing trumpets. Clear on down, and down to verse 25 there. They even had doorkeepers for the ark. In verse 25, so David and the elders of Israel and the commanders of units of 1,000 went to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord from the house of Obed-Edom. Remember, that's where they had to drop it off because they messed up. With rejoicing, because God had helped the Levites who were carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord. 7 bulls and 7 rams were sacrificed. Now David was clothed in a robe of fine linen, as were all the Levites who were carrying the ark, and as were the singers. And Kenaiah, who was in charge of the singing of the choirs. David also wore a linen ephod. So all Israel brought up the ark of the covenant of the Lord with shouts and with the sounds of ram's horn and trumpets and of cymbals and of the playing of lyres and harps. Pretty big deal, isn't it? I mean, we're not talking about just a little small town salmon parade. We're talking about a big Macy's Thanksgiving Day. I mean, we're talking big. He's got everybody involved in this, doesn't he? Because why? Why such a big deal? It is a big deal, isn't it? They're what? They're bringing the Ark of the Covenant. They're bringing the physical attribute of God into the city of Jerusalem, aren't they? Gene.
I'm just looking it up.
It's basically, it's a piece of clothing, kind of like an apron type deal, that the Levites wore. It was kind of a holy garment, I would guess. And David had one on, not that he was a Levite, but he had one on, as well as all the musicians and everything, they were Levites. So it was a common piece of clothing for them.
It's like an apron, it said.
Yeah, it's like an apron. They also wore a robe. It said, I think, a linen robe there. A linen ephod. It's there here somewhere. I know that they had their robes on too. As we read this, we're going to get into a little bit more here. We're talking about a big celebration. There's music. People are dancing. They're thinking, this is great. We're finally getting God back amongst us after 20 years, and I forget how long it was with Obed-Edom. But now they're bringing God back into the limelight, and it's a celebration. In 29, as the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, watched from a window, and when she saw King David dancing and celebrating, she despised him in her heart. Here we get into one of those, a couple of verses, and we can go everywhere with this one, can't we? Who was Michal? It was daughter of Saul to start with, correct? Saul gave his daughter to David to marry. Actually, if you look into it, he gave his first daughter to him. He said no, didn't want her. Then he gave his second daughter. And then if you go into the whole thing, he said, well, I don't really want that. And Saul said, well, I'll tell you what, you bring me back the foreskins of 100 Philistines, you can have her. Kind of a challenge then, wasn't it? What's David? Hey, I'm up for the challenge. He goes out and brings back 200. Just to show Saul who he was. So, Michal is supposed to be married to David. Okay? So, David leaves her. So, she's without a husband. So she marries. She marries another guy. Then David comes back and he says, hey, you're supposed to be married to me. Tells the other guy, scram, bud. She's mine. Do you suppose there was a little animosity there? Suppose there was a little unrest within the family? There's some that say, I think if you go back into Samuel, it talks about David dancing around, and this linen ephod has some kind of a bearing on this, and that he was exposing himself to the maidens along the road and everything. That's why she was despising him. I don't know if I would want to go there or not. I think I would want to more go with the fact that she was hurt. I mean, David wasn't going to be her husband. And then she takes some other guy, and then he comes back and says, no, you are. You're my wife. But when you look at some of this, okay, Saul was king, correct? And he was from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, his offspring are going to be from the tribe of Benjamin, correct? What was God's plan for the descendants all the way through to Jesus? They were to be of the tribe of what? Judah. David was from the tribe of Judah. Okay, now if Saul's daughter was in there, wouldn't that incorporate that then? He wanted it strictly from the tribe of Judah. There was to be, because remember, Michal never had any offspring. She didn't have any kids by David. So there was no lineage whatsoever. They couldn't claim that, hey, you know, Saul still had a little bit of this. He didn't. Not even through his offspring. Now, if you would put that in our world today, what a conglomerated mess that would have been, right? I mean, there could have been kids, and there could have been lawsuits, and I want my inheritance, and all of this, clear on through. That's the way man is. But when God steps in and does the things that He wants done, His providence follows through, doesn't it? Doesn't matter how messy we can make it, His will be done. Janet. Right, I mean, because David never came back. So, he let her marry another man. But then when David came back, what's David say? You're mine. You were promised to me. And we're not going to have no kids, but you know what? You're still my property. And that upsets her. And I think that's why that, and also the fact that we're looking at a big procession coming in, and all of the people are behind David. All of the people. And she's remembering back when, you know what? At one time, the people were behind Saul, weren't they? Her dad. They were behind him. And she's thinking, I could have had some of this. I could have had some of this. But it's not working that way, is it? I think that's why she was despising David.
It says he wasn't wearing his tidy whities.
Well,
He wasn't. It said he was dressed. He was dressed as a priest, but he was dancing.
mm-hmm.
She didn't think that this is a thought. She didn't think he was acting dignified like a king should.
Well, and that is that's the other story, okay, that they have of that. That could be something you could ponder, but there again, saying that he was exposing himself, I can't imagine that. I think what we need to concentrate on mostly, though, is the fact that this is a celebration, isn't it? This is a celebration. They are joyful for what they are doing because they are bringing God back into their lives, into their midst by bringing the ark back. That's something that we should be joyful about, shouldn't it? When we're here today, are we joyful? I mean, think about it. Are we joyful?
Yes.
See that?
Oh, sorry. Well, I am.
But I think we need to understand they didn't have him amongst them for 20 years. Why? Because they could get along without him? What about us? Could we go 20 years without God in our life? Think about that. How much do we rely upon him every day? How much? If we rely on him every day and we don't have him available, can we get along with that? Okay, we say no, we can't. then why aren't we joyful when we have him at our disposal every moment of the day? Why do we have a downcast heart at sometimes? Why do we get frustrated sometimes when things don't go our way? We have God here all the time. Shouldn't there be a smile on our face? Shouldn't we have laughter in our heart knowing that God is with me? That's what they're thinking right here. God is with us. We're getting it right. If we throw that to now, I mean, I got to admit, this morning wasn't that good of a morning for me. Okay? Does anybody else have those? I'm sure Gary probably thought that too. You know, about halfway slipping there. It's like, ooh, this is not going to be good. But in all reality, we have God on our side, don't we? If God be for us, who can be against us? Now, granted, Satan is out there. You're going to hear about this in my lesson this morning. But he's out there like a roaring lion. And he's seeking to devour. And it was no different back then, was it? No different. David messed up. Satan got a hold of him. But now he's getting it right. Dan.
A couple things I think we need to make a note of. We can speculate all we want why he was upset.
Right.
But it says here, it was in our heart. So it wasn't what he was doing physically out there.
Right.
The fact that he was popular and her heart was hurting because of her situation, whatever that is,
Mhm.
we know was an interior thing, not an exterior
Right.
thing. So him dancing or doing whatever does not play into this according to the scriptures.
Right.
So we need to be careful. The other thing you see here, I want to make a point of this. Today, as you know, scientists are constantly looking for the ark.
Mhm.
Now, the ark was God with them.
Right.
Today, and then we had Jesus come. He replaced that
Right.
with him.
Mhm.
I think it's purposely that we don't find it because of see the reaction of the people here. Today, the same people would have that same reaction. There
Mhm.
would be thousands of people thinking they would be worshiping God on the ark instead of Christ.
Yep.
And it's important that.
And that's why, how many movies have been produced on, hey, we're finding the ark. I mean, the mystery is being solved, you know. That, I mean, exactly. I mean, that's the big goal, isn't it? To find it, you know. And what did the people then need to worship? They needed to worship something what? Physical. They were physical. They want something to worship. When they were in the wilderness, what did God do to guide them? What was it? Cloud? Fire? It was physical.
And their law was physical.
It was. Everything was physical because they had to have something. I mean, that's why they made the golden calf when Moses didn't show up. We got to have something to worship. How are we today? Do we worship physical things? We shouldn't, but we do, don't we?
We should have been praying, and that would have been our phone call.
God set up the situation with Jesus. He's not here amongst us physically, is he? But we are going to commune with him this morning at the table, aren't we? He's not going to be here physically, but we're going to commune with him spiritually, with him at the table this morning. I would hope that our hearts are open for him to guide us with his Holy Spirit, that we can learn from his word, that his Spirit will show us things in his word that we need to know, that his Spirit will guide me with the words to say this morning in our lesson. We don't have the physical. We don't have the ark. We don't have an idol. But we do have this word that tells us how we are to worship. Just as they had the physical word of how they were to handle the ark, how they were to worship God, and how were they to do that? How they wanted to? How God wanted them to. How God wanted them to worship. Is it any different today? It shouldn't be any different. He gives us the guideline of how He wants us to worship, when He wants us to worship, what we are to do in worship, how it should be conducted. That's what we try to follow as closely as possible as we can. That's why we meet here on the first day of the week. We didn't show up yesterday. We're here today. That's why we're going to observe the Lord's Supper this morning. Because He tells us on the first day of the week, do these things. Jill.
We were talking about the ark, Jeremiah 3, and 16. It says, they will no longer say the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and it will not come to mind, nor will they remember it, nor will they miss it, nor will it be made again.
Right.
At that time, they will call Jerusalem the throne of the Lord. So that's what happened. There was Jerusalem, right?
Right. They took it to Jerusalem, okay, and then the ark is done away with, basically. Jerusalem is their place. And then what happened, it's kind of ironic how God works all this out. What happened then to Jerusalem? It was, the temple was destroyed, wasn't it? Remember, they had the Holy of Holies was separated by a curtain. Remember that curtain? The holy veil. Okay. What happened to that veil? It was ripped from what? From top to bottom. Why was that significant? From top to bottom.
Because it can't rip like that.
No.
It's easy.
No. If it was ripped from the bottom, remember this veil is tall. Okay. If it was ripped from the bottom to the top, they would say, "Hey, man done it."
Oh,
It was ripped from the top to the bottom. That means God did it. And what was the significance of that veil that separated the Holy of Holies? It was no longer needed. There was no longer a separation between God and man. What do we have now that's between us and God? Christ. He is the one, He is our mediator. He is the one that we go to. That's a significant. Can you imagine, could we have figured that out? I mean, I don't think the best novelist in this world could figure out a story like that and have everything work out. But God did. And the amazing thing about it is that God knew all of this before time. Before time. He had all of this planned, all of this figured. It's amazing. What an awesome God we worship. I know Paul mentioned the other night how we always go to God for our wants and our, do this, do this, do this, do this. But do we really understand how awesome He is? How great He is? How fabulous? How He has everything under control? And that we don't have to worry about anything. That's why He tells us not to worry, because He's got it all under control. And yet we still doubt Him, don't we? Because we still worry. Jill, you had a question or a
Well,
comment?
I was thinking about Paul had done did you have that class on David? It was celebrating. But it's the same thing that Miriam was doing after they came through the Red Sea.
Mm-hmm.
She sang.
Mm-hmm.
People sang and they're celebrating.
Right. And we're going to do that this morning in worship, aren't we? We're going to sing praises to God. Do we sing them like we really mean them? Or do we sing them like we praising Him, bringing honor and glory to the God that we worship? That's how we should be. And so often, the cares of this world creep in, and it dulls our appreciation for what He has done. Because every one of us in here was as worthless rags. Every one of us. If it wasn't for what was done for us through Christ. Jill.
So Dan was right. It wasn't like you say, because you look at all the way back when they were coming through the Red Sea, they were singing,
Mhm.
Moses and the sons of Israel, and then Miriam, Aaron's sister, took the timbrel in her hand, all the wind went out after her with timbrels and with dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Sing to the Lord, for He is highly exalted, the horse and his rider He has hurled into the sea.
Yep.
If they had songs, they were all singing and rejoicing.
Mm-hmm. And it was a joyful time for them. And I'm out of time, but chapter 16, we're going to look at what this Psalms of thanks and how they were looking at this whole celebration. Read chapter 16. It's pretty interesting. And of course, you'll see that it coincides with some of the Psalms. If you look at there, some of the Psalms that were wrote in Psalms coincides with this. But look at what they were, how they appreciated everything that was happening to them. When we read the chapter 16 of 1 Chronicles, we need to take note that we need to worship our God the same way, with thanksgiving, with remembrance of what has been done for us. Go ahead, Dan.
Just real quick, I think to that note, we don't have the persecution that they were dealing with, and so we take it for granted, the freedom and the blessings that we have in God
Mhm.
too many times. So
Yep.
we're not recognizing this as we should.
Right. We're not going out and battling the Philistines, are we? Hey, they just got through battling them twice. But we are going out into this world. And we still have opposition. It just may not be with physical sword and shield. But we still have opposition.
If you're not getting some resistance or persecution, maybe you need to look at what you're doing.
Exactly. That's exactly right. If there is not any persecution in your life, you're probably not on the right path. Because He told us in His Word, you shall suffer persecution. I'll leave you with that this morning. Thank you for all your participation.